I spent 11 nights and 12 days exploring the back roads of BC, and I have a few highlights and thoughts to share with you. I've divided these into a few different themes in the hopes that people may get some value from this. Firstly, the practical and technical side of overlanding. Let me start by saying there are overland setups and then there are overland setups. My setup tends towards the more minimalist version. Let's start with my trusty sidekick for this journey, my 2016 Toyota Tacoma TRD Sport. This truck is all stock other than some upgraded all-weather tires and a recent performance tune. While not being the full off-road version of the Tacoma, it still proved itself to be very capable. Not once did I lack for traction, power, or control, although to be fair, almost all the roads were pretty dry. On the steeper descents, I used the 4-low setting, which really saved the brakes and keeps things slow and under control. The only time this is not great is on some super tight corners where it tends to plow a bit. A lot of roads were washboardy, and on those sections a quick pop into 4 high with stability control on kept things under control nicely. I also used the truck's ECT mode on ascents as it kept the engine in the power band better. In order of importance, next on the list was the rooftop tent. Earlier this year I purchased the Summit Explorer 140 manufactured by Wildland. This mid-priced compact unit has an all-aluminum hardshell design that is quick to set up and tear down. As you can see from the pictures, I set it up more of a truck bed top rather than at a rooftop level. While this compromised a bit of potential storage space, it kept the wind resistance and road noise down and resulted in a minimal fuel economy penalty relative to an unloaded truck on similar roads. For me, traveling alone, I found the unit to be very comfortable and usable. I did have a little bit of rain and a couple of windy days, and there were no issues at all. With 2 people, the space will be a bit tighter, but still not a major issue. The truck had an existing tonneau cover, which is a 4-panel flip type, and this presented some access challenges, as the panels would no longer flip up fully with the tent installed. I overcame this in 2 ways. Firstly, I mounted the tent towards the front of the 6-foot truck bed, allowing for the back panel to open to around 45 degrees, which allowed for pretty good access. Secondly, I designed and built a bed slider out of 3/8-inch plywood. That would allow me to slide the cargo out. Almost all of the gear was stored in rugged totes, which kept things dry and together. I also added an additional feature which allowed me to use the bed slider as a table by simply screwing in some legs, which were just some used 2x2s I had laying around. Not particularly stylish, but it turned out to be quite functional. I also brought along a 7x9 nylon tarp, along with poles and fasteners that allowed me to add an additional covered area on the back or the side of the tent. Eventually I might look into a rollout awning, but for now this worked out just fine. I mentioned in one of the videos a bit of a power issue. This had to do with my Bluetti 200L power box not charging properly from the DC to DC charger I had installed earlier in the year. This charger should have fully charged the power box in about 3 to 4 hours, but it was taking much longer. On top of that, my solar panel setup was also not functioning properly. As a result, a couple of times I was on the verge of losing power to my cooler, which would not have been catastrophic, but certainly a major inconvenience. After a bunch of troubleshooting and running around in Williams Lake, I discovered the DC charging issue to be related to a faulty circuit breaker connected to the vehicle battery. I replaced that with a 60 amp fuse and voila, we are fast charging again, at least while the vehicle is running. Troubleshooting the solar setup, I found the controller had gotten fried from too much time spent in the elements. Doing a bit more research, I discovered I could actually hook up the panels directly to the Bluetti power box without a controller, as it would manage the incoming voltage on its own. Tried that, and again, voila, solar power worked. Now I just had to wait a day or two for the sun to return. Now moving on to route planning and camping. Before I left, I had an approximate time frame and route in mind, but had intentionally left it somewhat flexible. I made sure a loved one had this approximate plan in hand, as I knew I would be without cell service for a good part of the time. When I would go through a town or an area with coverage, I would check in and let them know where I was and where I was heading next. I cannot stress enough the importance of letting someone know where you are. Most of the travel was going to be off the tarmac, a lot of it on Forest Service roads. It is advised to carry a VHF radio and radio ahead so trucks know you are coming. I did not have one, but to be honest, I saw no logging trucks whatsoever. This could be because there were still load restrictions on in some places, but also could be because the forest industry in BC is just a shell of what it once was. Regardless of your personal feelings, that's a whole other discussion. Despite that, obviously you need to be on the lookout for oncoming vehicles, especially on tight corners, one-way bridges, and narrow sections. Many of the canyon roads had rockfall on them as well. Fortunately for me, there was never too much for me to carefully navigate around. Well, except for one time on the way to Jesmond Lookout, where the rock buildup on the road was literally sliding towards a several 100-meter drop-off. I'm not particularly afraid of heights, but I am afraid of serious injury or death, and that was one step too far for me. Camping-wise, I generally planned my travel to end up in spots where there may be multiple options available. Over the 11 nights, I only spent 2 nights in a provincial park where I actually had to pay. My total camping fees for the entire trip was just $36. The rest of the time it was unmaintained wreck sites or parking on crown land and or areas where dispersed camping was allowed. This actually worked out surprisingly well, as I camped at some amazing sites. Just be prepared for limited services and to pack out your trash. Just please, wherever you are, keep it clean, safe, and respectful, so the rest of us can continue to enjoy this amazing privilege. The other thing I tried to always do was to be close to water of some kind. That way I could save my drinking water for drinking and use water from a local creek or lake for washing up. You'll generally only find potable water at service sites or by stopping at a Sani station in one of the communities along the way. And a shout out to the trusty and timeless 2-burner Coleman stove. That's all I really needed for my basic cooking needs, whether it be hot coffee in the morning, a nice hot water wash and shave, frying up an egg, or exploring the amazing culinary diversity of Hamburger Helper. That and something to keep your beverages chilled. What more could a man ask for? Well, how about great fishing? How about great fishing? I'm sure there are lots of fish to be caught. In fact, I know there are because they were jumping all around me in places. Unfortunately, my lack of local knowledge, match the hatch and all that, and some quite windy days did not end up with a single trout sizzling away on my pan. Better luck next time, as they say. Of course, the real stars of the show were the amazing scenery, great history, and cool rocks. Don't get me wrong, living near the coast is pretty nice, but I do miss my wide open spaces. The Upper Fraser Canyon is the place to be if you want spectacular overlooks where you can see for miles. I've traveled through the desert southwest a few times and that is amazing, but there are parts of BC that are pretty amazing too, like Farwell Canyon, where you'd swear you're in Arizona or North Africa, and Chilcotin Lake. Wow. People book weeks in advance to get a shuttle to see the famous Moraine Lake in Banff, fighting crowds to get that Instagram-worthy shot. I could count the number of people at my campsite on one hand, and a short hike provided just otherworldly views. I also met some cool people along the way too. David, who was riding his bike from Victoria to Tuktoyaktuk, on back roads no less.
Have a good trip, man.
Fellow campers and townsfolk eager to share their inside stories, helping me to find some unexpected places along the way. But here's the thing I found the most enlightening. Those moments of silence. Pure silence. Except for maybe a faint cricket's chirp and a whispering early evening wind through the bunch grass. Something I rarely hear living where I do. Something I think we all need to hear more often. Almost the entire population of BC lives in 3 areas: Vancouver and Fraser Valley, Eastern Vancouver Island, and the Okanagan and Thompson Valleys. People in the rest of BC live very different lives. They don't rush, they mostly are not affluent, they hunt, they fish, they farm, they mine, they cut trees, they work hard to get by, and they help their neighbors. The distances between towns are wide, and there is no such thing as rush hour. This is the part of BC the vast majority of people don't take the time to experience. The out-of-the-way towns and villages often get ignored. They struggle, but they somehow manage to get by. Many of those communities have connections to the past that span centuries, millennia, or in the case of our First Nations communities, time immemorial. I hope you enjoyed this series, and I look forward to discovering more interesting stories to tell. See you later.